Okay, yeah, can you say hello? Hi. Hi, guys. Can you say hello? Let me know who is here. I hope my new friend get this notification, so it's been saying we'll go live together. I hope you get this notification so we can go live together. Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. How you guys doing today? I have something for us to talk about. It's actually uh, so a message. As you all know, I kind of tell stories. My channel is storytelling channels, but I also help people who are in need also post their stories. So I would like to read it for us. Uh, I need you guys' opinion. So if you are in, can you say hello? Can you say hello? Let me know that I'm not alone. If you're friends and you're seeing this notification, please come so we can go live together. For all the people dropping me messages, let's go live together. I'm here. I am here. Network is better today, so let's do it. Can you say hello, people? Can you say hello? Can you say hello? Can you say hello? If you can hear me, please say hello. Meanwhile, I need your opinion on something. So someone sent me this message. Can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, say hello. I'm trying to play what someone sent to me, and I need you guys' opinion, but I need us to interact. Is it me that is not getting the message? Hello. I'm seeing like we have 15 people here. Can you guys say hello if you're here? If you're watching, can you say hello, please?
Mara never imagined love could feel so heavy. The Femi she fell for wasn't the Femi who now monitored her every move. In the beginning, his attention was intoxicating,
What's
his
happening?
love a shield against the world. But over time, the shield felt more like a cage.
Playing my
Their love
voice.
story had started at a university debate
Why
competition.
is my live stream
Amara,
playing my
with her
voice?
fierce intellect and captivating presence, had stolen Femi's attention from the moment she
Guys,
stepped
if you
onto the
can see
stage.
someone
He'd
here,
introduced
let me know
himself
that
after
you're
her
watching my
win,
live.
and they'd spent hours talking
I
about
just like to
everything:
feel the
books,
live stream
dreams,
playing my
life.
videos.
Femi was
That's all I
charming,
need.
with a confidence that could command any room. Amara, with her quiet strength, was the perfect balance. They became inseparable, their connection deepening with every shared secret and stolen moment. But what began as devotion soon morphed into something darker. Amara noticed the first red flag 6 months into their relationship. It was subtle, a comment about the outfit she wore to a friend's birthday party. Don't you think it's a bit revealing? Femi had asked, his smile strained. Amara laughed it off, chalking it up to
Oh,
protectiveness. It's just a dress,
oh,
Femi.
okay.
But his response had lingered. You
Guys,
don't
please
need to
stay.
dress
Can
like
you come
that
back
to
to
get
my YouTube,
attention.
my
I'm all the attention you need. First, it felt like
Please
love.
check out my
His constant
videos.
texts
I'm doing
checking in,
Nigerian
his
dating.
insistence on
Please
dropping her
comment
off and picking her
below.
up from work, his need to know who she was with at all times. But over time, it began to feel suffocating. Femi didn't like her hanging out with her childhood friends anymore. They're a bad influence, he'd say, though he had never met them. If she protested, he'd twist it around. Why do you want to spend time with them so badly? Am I not enough? The worst part was the guilt. Every
See,
argument ended with
this is
Femi
about
apologizing,
possessive love.
tears in his eyes, promising he only acted that way because he loved her so much. I just can't bear the thought of losing you, Amara. You're my everything. Amara's world grew smaller. Her vibrant social life dimmed as she gradually cut off friends to avoid the inevitable fights. The career she was so passionate about, a budding journalist with endless potential, suffered under Femi's possessive gaze. Do you have to work late again? He'd ask, his voice tinged with accusation. It's my job, Femi, she'd reply, trying to keep her frustration in check. Your job seems more important than me. It wasn't long before Mara found herself making excuses to avoid assignments that required traveling or late hours. Her editor noticed, pulling her aside one after. Amara, you're one of the best writers we have. But lately, it feels like your heart isn't in it. Is everything okay? Amara nodded, forcing a smile. Everything's fine. But it wasn't. The turning point came on a rainy Saturday afternoon. Amara had gone to visit her cousin, Tenny, without telling Femi. She'd left her phone in her bag, not noticing the barrage of missed calls and messages. When she returned home, Femi was waiting. Where were you? He demanded, his voice eerily calm. With Tenny, she replied, setting
Guys,
down her
please can you
bag.
send the live
And you
stream
didn't think to tell me?
send me live
I don't have to
please.
report my every move to you, Femi. His anger erupted. Do you know how worried I was? I thought something had happened to you, and you couldn't even pick up your phone. I'm not a child, Femi. You need to stop this. But Femi wasn't listening. His voice rose, his accusations spiraling into territory that left Amara shaking. By the time the fight ended, Amara was in tears, and Femi was apologizing again, promising to change. I just love you so much, Amara. I'm scared of losing you. That night, Amara stared at the ceiling, her mind racing. Love wasn't supposed to feel like this, was it? She remembered
Please
her
come
mother's
follow
words.
guys.
The right person will bring out the best in you, not clip your wings. Femi's love felt like chains, dragging her down into a pit she couldn't escape. But leaving him felt impossible. She loved him, didn't she? And then there was the fear of what he might do if she walked away. Mara began to plan her days carefully, avoiding anything that might set Femi off. She learned to filter her words, to smile through his probing questions, to feign excitement about his constant presence. It wasn't just love anymore, it was survival. One evening, she decided to call Tenny, her cousin and confidant. Phone from the safety of the kitchen, Amara let out what had been bubbling inside her for months. Tenny, I don't know how much more of this I can take, she said, her voice breaking. Amara, you have to leave him, Tenny said firmly. This isn't love. This is control. And it's only going to get worse. But I can't just leave, Amara replied. What if he does something? You don't understand how he gets when he feels like I'm pulling away. Amara, you can't live your life like this. What about your dreams? Your happiness? You've already given up so much for him. Amara wanted to argue, but Tenny's words hit too close to home. The cracks in their relationship grew deeper after that conversation. Femi's behavior became more erratic, his jealousy more intense. One night, he showed up unannounced at Amara's workplace, claiming he just wanted to surprise her. But the way his eyes scanned her colleagues, the way he lingered near her male co-worker's desk, told a different story. On the way home, Femi grilled her. That guy at the office, what's his deal? He seemed awfully friendly with you. He's just a co-worker. Femi, Amara said, exasperated. I don't like the way he looked at you. Maybe you should ask for a transfer or quit that job altogether. Amara froze. Writing became her escape, a way to remind herself of who she was before Femi's shadow loomed over her life. But even writing couldn't erase the mounting tension. The final straw came during her best friend Ada's wedding. Femi had reluctantly agreed to attend. His mood soured as soon as they arrived. Amara, radiant in a fitted emerald dress, catching up with old friends when she felt Femi's hand clamp around her wrist. Ignoring me all night, he hissed, dragging her aside. I've been socializing, Femi. It's a wedding. His grip tightened. Don't play dumb with me. You're too friendly with these people. It's disrespectful. Tears burned in Amara's eyes as guests began to glance their way. You're making a scene, and you're embarrassing me, Femi shot back. Amara pulled free and walked away, her chest heaving with frustration and shame. That night, Amara made a decision. She couldn't keep living like this. The fear, the guilt, constant walking on eggshells, it wasn't love. It was a toxic, consuming fire that threatened to destroy her. But leaving Femi wouldn't be easy. She knew he wouldn't let go without a fight. Amara spent the next few weeks quietly planning her escape. She couldn't confront Femi head-on. She knew him too well. His charm, his manipulative apologies, the way he twisted her emotions. It was a trap she couldn't risk falling into again. Tenny became her lifeline. Together, they created a plan. Amara would take a long overdue work assignment out of town, giving her the space and time to break free. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it was a start. On the night before her departure, Amara packed a small suitcase. She moved quietly, careful not to wake Femi, who was asleep in the next room. Her heart pounded with every step, the weight of her decision pressing down on her. She left a note on the table. Femi, I need space to find myself again. Please respect my decision. Don't contact me. This isn't goodbye forever, it's goodbye for now. Amara slipped out the door and into the night, her chest tightening with both fear and relief. Femi woke up to an empty apartment. At first, he thought she had gone to work early. The note on the table shattered that illusion. His hands trembled as he read her words. Space. What did that mean? Why would she leave without talking to him? Anger coursed through him, followed by a wave of despair. He paced the apartment, replaying every argument, every moment where he might have pushed her too far. Femi refused to believe this was the end. He convinced himself that Amara was just being emotional, that she'd come back once she realized how much she needed him. But days turned into weeks, and Amara didn't return. Meanwhile, Amara felt like she was rediscovering herself. Away from Femi's shadow, she began to breathe again. She threw herself into her work, taking on projects she'd once hesitated to pursue. She started reconnecting with old friends, people who had missed her vibrant spirit and had been pushed away by Femi's control. Tenny was her biggest cheerleader, reminding her daily of how far she'd come. You're stronger than you think, Amara, Tenny said one evening. Don't let him pull you back in. But Femi wasn't giving up. Femi began showing up at her workplace, lingering outside like a phantom. At first, Amara ignored him, but his persistence grew alarming. One evening, she found him waiting by her car, holding a bouquet of roses. Amara, he began, his voice soft, almost pleading. I've changed. I've been going to therapy. I know I made mistakes, but I'm working on myself. For us. Amara's heart twisted. She had loved this man once, and a part of her still did. But she couldn't ignore the fear that crept up her spine every time she thought about the past. I need time, Femi, she said, her voice steady. I'm glad you're working on yourself, but I'm not ready to talk about us. Femi's expression darkened for a moment before he forced a smile. I'll wait, Amara. As long as it takes. Amara knew this wasn't over. Femi's possessiveness had always been about control, and his attempts to win her back felt like another way to exert it. She began to document everything. Every call, every message, every unannounced visit. She reached out to a counselor who helped her understand the cycle of control and manipulation she had been trapped in. You're doing the right thing by creating boundaries, the counselor said. It's important to protect your peace, but peace felt like a fragile thing, constantly threatened by the shadow of Femi's obsession. Femi's breaking point came one evening when Amara spotted him outside her apartment building. She hadn't given him her new address, yet here he was, standing under a streetlight, his eyes fixed on her window. Amara called Tenny, her voice shaking. He's here. I don't know how he found me. You need to call the police, Amara, Tenny urged. But Amara hesitated. Despite everything, part of her still feared what Femi might do if pushed too far. The next day, she filed a restraining order. It was the hardest decision she had ever made, but it was necessary. The day Amara filed the restraining order, she felt a wave of relief, but it was fleeting. In the days that followed, Femi's behavior escalated. He stopped showing up outside her apartment. Instead, he flooded her phone with texts, calling her relentlessly, leaving voicemails that grew increasingly desperate. Amara, please, I can't live without you. One message read. I'll change, I swear. Just give me another chance. His words gnawed at her, like a virus infecting her resolve. Part of her, maybe the part that had loved him so deeply, wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that this was all a mistake, that if she took him back, they could fix everything. But another part of her, the part that had suffered for so long, knew better. She couldn't let herself return to that darkness. Amara leaned into her support system. Tenny stayed by her side, reminding her of her strength. Even her co-workers, who had seen her distant and worn down over the past year, began to notice the change in her. They saw a woman who was reclaiming her life, her independence. You're glowing, Amara, her co-worker Alex said one morning. You look like yourself again. It wasn't a compliment Amara had expected, but it was one she cherished. The woman in the mirror was different now, stronger, more confident. She no longer allowed Femi's shadow to define her, but Femi was not ready to let go. One evening, Amara received a text from an unknown number. The message was simple. I know what you've done. You can't run from me forever. Her heart skipped a beat. It was Femi. She was certain of it. He had found a way around the restraining order. Amara felt a chill crawl up her spine, the haunting feeling of being trapped resurfacing. She didn't reply, but the message consumed her. What did he mean by, I know what you've done? Had he been watching her? Was he planning something even more sinister? She called Tenny in a panic. He's getting worse, Tenny. What if he comes after me? What if he? Amara, you've done everything you can. You can't keep this up forever. You've put up boundaries, you've protected yourself. Don't let him win. Don't let him take your peace. Peace was hard to hold on to when the man who once promised to love her could no longer respect her wishes. Amara took extra precautions over the next few weeks. She changed her phone number, increased security at her apartment, and even took a self-defense class. She wasn't sure if any of it would stop Femi, but she knew she couldn't keep living in fear. Yet, despite her efforts, Femi didn't back off. He began showing up at her work, lingering near the entrance, his eyes following her every move. He didn't speak to her directly anymore. Instead, He just watched, his gaze cold and unyielding. It was as if he were waiting for her to break, to cave in and return to him. One afternoon, Amara found a note slipped under her office door. I'll always love you, but you can never truly escape me. Her hand trembled as she read the message, words slicing through the newfound peace she worked so hard to build. But this time, instead of succumbing to the fear, she took a deep breath and locked the note away. Femi's obsession was a monster, but she was no longer the prey. Amara's life continued to shift in a new direction. She threw herself into her work, gaining recognition for her investigative pieces that now carried a deeper edge. Perhaps because she was telling her own story, the story of a woman who fought to free herself from a toxic love. She even began dating again, though cautiously. Each time she went on a date, she reminded herself not to settle. She had learned that love wasn't about someone owning you, about someone needing you to exist. It was about two whole people building something together. But Femi was still in the background, a shadow lingering just out of sight. It wasn't until months later, when Amara was out with a friend, that she saw him again. He was standing across the street, watching her. His expression was unreadable, but there was something in his eyes, something that spoke of madness and regret. Amara froze for a moment, heart pounding, but then she took a step forward. She was no longer afraid. Her voice was steady when she said the words she had never thought she'd say to him. I'm done, Femi. I won't let you control me anymore. You're the past now. Femi's eyes flashed with something, anger perhaps, before he turned and walked away, his figure swallowed by the crowd. For the first time in years, Amara felt free. Femi's departure that day marked a turning point for Amara. For the first time in years, she didn't feel the weight of his presence on her shoulders. She walked away from the moment with her head held high, feeling a sense of liberation she hadn't experienced since before she'd met him. But that sense of freedom didn't come without a price. As the weeks passed, Amara couldn't shake the memories of Femi. His smothering affection, the cruel manipulations, and the suffocating feeling of being trapped in a life she didn't recognize. The scars of their relationship lingered in her mind, and sometimes, in her quiet moments, she found herself questioning everything she had once believed about love. She confided in Tenny one evening, her voice hesitant. I sometimes wonder if I was wrong, if maybe there was a part of me that was just too weak to hold on. Tenny, ever the strong pillar of support, shook her head. Amara, what you're feeling is normal. Healing takes time, but what you've done is brave. You've chosen yourself, and that's the most important thing. You're not weak for walking away. You're strong for knowing when enough is enough. It was the first time Amara truly believed it. For so long, she had felt as though leaving Femi was a failure. But now, she understood that it wasn't failure, it was survival. The healing process wasn't linear, of course. There were days when Amara felt the sting of loneliness, moments when she questioned her decision, wondering if she had closed the door too soon on a relationship that, at one point, had felt so full of promise. One evening, as she sat in her apartment reflecting on her journey, her phone buzzed. It was an email from a company she had applied to months ago. They had reviewed her work and they wanted to offer her a position, a prestigious role that could change everything for her career. Amara's hands shook as she read the email. This was it, the opportunity she had been waiting for. Her dreams were no longer just dreams. They were becoming a reality. And this time, she wasn't going to let anyone hold her back. She called Tenny immediately. Tenny, I got it. The job. They want me. Tenny's voice was full of joy. I knew you could do it, Amara. You've always had the strength. This is your time. For the first time in what felt like forever, Amara smiled with complete certainty. This was her moment, her victory. But even with her career on the rise, there were moments when Femi's shadow still loomed over her. She saw him once more, months after their last encounter. He was sitting at a cafe, his eyes locked on her as she walked by. Amara's heart skipped a beat, but she didn't stop. She didn't look back. In that moment, she realized that Femi had no power over her anymore. His gaze, once all-consuming, was now nothing more than a distant echo of life she had left behind. Femi may have loved her, in his own twisted way, but his love had never been about her. It had been about control. She had freed herself from that cage. And now, for the first time in years, Amara was truly free. Femi, on the other hand, was not faring as well. The unraveling of his relationship with Amara had set off a chain reaction in his life. His once unshakable confidence was gone, replaced by a gnawing emptiness. He had sought therapy, but it was clear that his need for control was deeply rooted in his insecurities, his fear of abandonment, and his childhood trauma. He tried to reach out to Amara again, but her boundaries were firm. She had moved on, and there was nothing more for them to say. For the first time, Femi realized that love wasn't about ownership. It wasn't about forcing someone to stay or manipulating them into submission. Love was about respect, trust, and freedom, and he had lost all of that. Months later, Femi reached out to Amara once more. This time, his message was different. Amara, I've come to understand the damage I've caused. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're finding the peace you deserve. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope one day you can see that I truly regret what I did. Amara read the message carefully, her heart no longer aching at the thought of Femi. Instead, she felt a strange sense of closure. She responded, I've forgiven you, Femi, but I'm not the same person I was. I've learned that love can only flourish when there's freedom. I found my own peace now, and I hope you find yours. She didn't expect a response, and she didn't need one. In that moment, she realized that forgiveness wasn't just for Femi, it was for her, too. Amara's life continued to bloom. She moved into a new apartment, far from the memories of Femi, and threw herself into her work with a renewed sense of purpose. She even began to date again cautiously, but without the fear and self-doubt that had once held her captive. And through it all, she held onto one powerful truth. Love wasn't about ownership. It was about freedom. As Amara continued to build her life, her story became a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. She had learned that true love was not about being controlled, but about being free to be who you are. And that love, real love, would find her when she was whole, not when she was broken. Her past with Femi had shaped her, but it did not define her. She was her own woman now, standing tall in the face of everything she had overcome. And in the end, she had become the most important person in her life, the woman she had always been destined to be.
Hello everyone. Guys, can you hear me? I think what I did is I premiered this story, then I forgot. So I was trying to speak to you guys. Then it started playing. Then it cut off my voice. I don't know if you guys can hear me now. If you can hear me, can you say hello? Danny was asking me if I'm okay. Danny, I tried to reply you, but you can't hear me. Danny, I tried to reply you, but you can't hear me. Oh, Adife, thank you for staying with me. Danny, are you here? If you're here, can you say hello? So what should I do now?